Hello. Good evening, all.
Good evening,
Good
ma'am.
evening, ma'am.
You only 7 members joined. Okay, fine. So in the last session, we have discussed on factory registration concept and factory overriding concept. So how we can override a instance we will discuss today, and global overriding we have discussed, right? So overall data type, how we can override global override in the sense the entire test bench infrastructure. It will search for entire test bench wherever like a test generator, driver, scoreboard, monitor, everywhere it will check for entire test bench. Wherever it founds that particular object, whatever the data type you want to substitute, with that data type it will be overriding. Okay, so override of data type happens in a globally entire infrastructure. That's what we call as a global override. Any doubts till there?
No, ma'am. Ma'am, in last class, you explained an example, no, ma'am. AHP to AXI
Mm,
overriding. That comes under global overriding. Am I right, ma'am?
yes,
Okay. Okay,
yes.
ma'am.
Uh,
So if we
so
want to override some transactions particularly means it will comes under an instance or it is different, ma'am.
Mm. It comes under instance. We will discuss that thing, how to override the instance. So global override, everything, everyone clear with that?
Yes.
Others?
Yes.
Okay. So factory registration. So how to do the factory registration? First of all, what is the purpose of factory registration? First of all, we can create a object dynamically. I have shown you how can we create a object or a component. If it is a object, we use object utils macro. If it is a component, we use macro UVM component utils. Okay, we have two types, parameterized and non-parameterized. If it is a parameterized, you need to pass the data type. Okay, so that is how we can register factory. So what are the benefits of factory registration? We can utilize all the hook methods, do hook methods, copy, compare, clone, print, all the methods are there. We can access all those, and also verbosity levels we can access, and also create method we can access everything dynamically, overriding, or dynamically we can access everything, and also we can change in a runtime. Okay, so next to factory overriding. In factory, that is another purpose. Second one, factory overriding, and third one is avoiding hard coding values. So we can avoid the hard code values by using this factory registration concept. Next, we also seen what is the practical usage of this dollar test plus arguments. So how we can avoid that if there are multiple number of transactions, a base transaction, transaction 1, 2, 3. If there are multiple number of transactions, so how we can avoid that? Okay. Next, factory override in a UVM test. So first we will see the global override. We will write again. Okay. So in factory overriding, we have two types. One is a global override Second one is instance override. So first global override. Yesterday we already seen the example. Can anyone tell how to write that global overriding? How to write the global override? Suppose if we take any two type of classes or one APB, one AHB transaction, two type of transactions. Suppose class AHB transaction extends UVM sequence item. UVM object utils, or else you can also try with the monitor component. We will try with a component. Okay, yesterday we have seen for transaction, right? We will try for component, not object. Um, Component like monitor, suppose class monitor extends from UVM monitor. It's a component, right? That's why we need to register the factory using UVM component utils. Are you able to remember the syntaxes, everyone?
Yes, ma'am. Component creation and object creation and all okay, ma'am. But this overriding and configuration need to do some practice.
Okay. So string name you need to pass and also UVM component parent. You are accessing everything from parent by default. So we need to pass two arguments here, super dot new. Super dot new means it will point out to the parent class, because everything we are not creating here. We are just utilizing which are already there in the libraries. Okay. So end function. End function, if you want to write some build phase, run phase, you can write the phases here. End class. Okay, so this is what one monitor. Suppose this monitor is related to APB monitor. So here also pass as a APB monitor. And now I want to create a AHB monitor. Instead of APB, I am replacing with the AHB monitor. Okay. Suppose when we are writing multiple agents, there will be multiple number of agents. Here is a DUT. In this DUT, there is a processor and AHB related interface and APB related interface and some PCIe related interface. Okay. To this AHB, we are connecting one agent. And here for APB, we are connecting one agent. Like that, sometimes we have multiple number of agents. In multiple number of agents, we'll have active agent, passive agent. If it is passive agent, only one monitor. If it is an active agent, we will have multiple. We'll have both generator, driver, monitors. Okay. So suppose we are creating the monitor block now. It is related to the APB monitor, and here it is a AHB monitor. Okay. Instead, suppose this monitor functionality and this monitor functionality both are same. Okay, so whenever both are same, you want to override any one with the suppose APB you want to override with AHB, or AHB you want to override with the APB. If you don't override, suppose you want to add all this APB functionality to AHB. Okay, then what we need to do, whatever the transactions are there, like address, data, any other signals like channel, write address channel or read address channel, or write data, read data, slave error signals or probe signals, whatever the signals are there, everything we need to put into the AHB. Okay, so without adding all those signals to here in AHB, directly we are overriding. That means directly we are copying this APB to AHB. Okay, so that's what the concept of factory overriding here. Please mute everyone. Okay, suppose here I want to override AHB monitor to APB monitor, or APB monitor to AHB monitor. Both are same. Just you need to remember the syntax. Right side, left side will be which you want to going to override. Right, left side will be like suppose yesterday I have shown you. Suppose you want to put APB is equal to AHB. So AHB you are sending to the APB. So this APB will be overridden with the AHB. Okay, left hand side will be APB, right hand side will be AHB. Okay, so like that how we are going to override. Everyone understood till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so how we are writing, what we need to put here?
Ma'am, we have to use a function set type override by type, and then like the first is like the base which we want, which the class which we want to get overridden, and comma the new class which is going to override the base class.
Okay, so first of all,
Yeah.
you need to create the UVM factory. So
Yeah,
UVM
you fact.
factory set type override by type by default. If it is a instance, set inst override by
Instance
type.
override.
Ah,
Yeah.
so here set type override. You will remember the syntax if I write like this. That's why I'm writing here. If I explain in PPT directly, like you will just see. Maybe won't remember. Like which one we want to APB monitor get type comma AHB monitor get type. So simple. Whenever we put this, APB will be overridden by AHB. Okay. So clear
Ma'am,
everyone?
this
Mm.
will happen in the build phase of the environment or a test where we are instantiating both the monitors, right?
In
Or
the yes,
in the build phase, right?
build
Okay.
phase. Yes.
Okay.
In which
Okay.
component we override, ma'am, usually? Test component or in environment?
Test only. We put mostly in test.
Okay.
In test, we use configuration, right? In config DB, we will mention all these things.
Okay.
We will discuss that also. Okay, so this is how we can override a instance. I mean, overall, it will check globally. Okay, if it is an instance, just you need to put instead of this, I will create an instance specifically. Suppose for my monitor, we have 3 instances or any 2 instances. So how we can put the 2 instances here? Have you gone through that concept?
No, instance overriding. Still not good
Okay,
enough.
so I'm taking AHB monitor. In AHB monitor, just I'm taking some task, or mostly in transactions, we will take into the sequence or sequence item. You can take whatever. Okay, so here I'm writing some task or function. So I'm considering here AHB monitor transaction tx1 and tx2. Okay, so here we need to override UVM factory get dot set instance override by type. Okay, so what we need to pass here, from which transaction to which transaction you want to pass. Suppose AHB monitor. In AHB monitor, we are taking two number of transactions here. Okay, same those two number of transactions you are putting into the AHB. So AHB transactions you want to override with the APB transactions. Okay, so here base transaction will be the AHB monitor. So here actually transactions we never write for monitor, we write for sequencer, but just for example I'm showing. Okay, monitor get type same like previous example only, and APB monitor. That means before we kept APB to AHB, now AHB to APB, like this. Okay, because left hand side is a AHB, right hand side is a APB. Okay, don't confuse. APB monitor get type. Now which one you want to replace, overwrite? Transaction. Mostly how we create this transaction, through the sequence item. Sequence by default we create as a sequence only. So sequence dot transaction 2. You want to override this AHB transaction to APB transaction, only transaction 2. If you want to override transaction 1 also, then instead of this tx2 just put 1. So both the transactions will be overridden. Okay, so after doing this you need to create the transaction. Okay, how can we create the transaction? tx1 is equal to APB transaction. Suppose these are from base transactions. APB monitor, or you need to put transaction, APB transaction, type ID. Next, create method. Don't you remember?
Yes, ma'am.
tx1, comma, this. Have you gone through the assignment, yesterday's assignment I have shared in the group?
Yes. Yes.
Not yet, ma'am. Need to go through.
tx2.
Hi, this is required in this place, like in the while creating.
We
think you
need to
remember.
create the transactions in the build phase.
Mhm.
In the build phase, we write these both config db and this create method.
Okay, but like in the last class when you were discussing, if I remember, you didn't write this.
In the last class, huh? Okay.
Mm, Probably it was that time you forgot or whatever. But I just want to know when is this required and when is this not required. Although I mean this is very basic, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, wait. So here I'm
Mm.
printing transaction 1 and transaction 2. If you want to print, you can by using print method or do print method. What is the difference between print and do print? Can anyone tell? What is the difference between print and do print?
Print method is already available, and if user wants to modify, then they can actually write a do print method. I mean, I think print method we cannot update it, but with the do print we can. It's like a callback method kind of a thing, like where user can add a few more things to the do print.
Okay. So yeah, do print, do hook methods, all do hook methods or callback methods. Callback method means we don't change the actual functionality, but we will add something extra without changing the main functionality. That's what callback method. But what is the difference between print and do print means? Print method you can use whenever those fields or components or objects are registered with the factory. Okay, do printer even if you don't register with factory, those type of those fields or objects also can use this do printer. Okay, print is used only when we register with the factory, the fields or objects or components.
And this do print, then we have to actually write this method in the transaction then, because it's a user defined method, right?
uh, do printer in
Yeah,
transaction. Yeah, of course, these things we write
yeah,
in a transaction sequence
okay,
items only.
yeah, okay. So we have to explicitly write because it's not
Mm,
defined in the factory. It's a user defined one.
yes.
It's that, yeah.
Yes. Do print is not user defined. It's predefined
Oh,
only.
okay.
Do print, do hook, we have do hook methods, same as copy, compare, clone. All these we have do copy, do compare, do clone, like that. Do print. Okay, but what is the main difference means when we use the print only alone, print, copy, clone, whenever we use in that time it should be registered with a factory. If you use this do print do hook methods, no need of factory registration. Because here why we are writing this factory registration object utils to access all these things only, right? To access these methods, statements, everything. So that's why we are registering with the factory. In some cases if you don't register, then we can utilize this do hook methods. You will get these in a reporting mechanism concept, okay, in next session, verbosity levels and these do hook methods. Next doubt is your doubt, like where do we write these config db and create methods, right? Another person.
Yeah, yeah, that why this is required here.
Actually whenever we are why create method is required, because here
No,
we are
no,
taking.
create. I understood why create. Of course, like instead of newing, you create here in UVM. But
Hmm,
like in the arguments, you gave the class name tx1, and then this
one
is tx1 is an object, right? Or
tx1 is a present transaction name, comma this.
yeah, yeah. It's not a component. It's an object.
Yeah, it's an object.
Then do we need this?
Yeah, we need this.
So
Okay.
I think that
For
is the
objects we use
syntax.
null.
If
That
you,
is
if you,
config DB.
I think that is syntax, right, Prashanti? If you go to the constructor, you'll see two arguments. First one is string and second one is UVM component.
Yeah. I'm
So
sorry for the confusion, but I just want to clarify this. The two arguments are always for both components and object, or it is different for
no, for
component or
object
object?
we will have only string. We don't have the second argument.
Yeah, so that's why I'm asking, like in this case, whether whether what you wrote is right,
No,
is
no, this
correct
is
or not.
object of component, the object of UVM component. THP monitor is a component. So that will
Okay.
have two
Yeah,
arguments.
okay. I got it. Yeah, I understand. Monitor is a component.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
why
Okay.
it has.
Mm. Yeah, because I thought transaction is not TX1. Yeah, the
No,
names are
no.
a little bit confused.
For example, Prashanti has created those as, I think the
Yeah,
For
got
naming
it.
is
Thank you.
object, we no need to pass this
Mm.
for object no need to pass, but for component we need to pass this.
I think because of the name, I think they're getting confused. You could have
Okay.
written ASP1
Transaction is a object, but I have took here as a monitor, right? Monitor is a component.
object of a component,
Mm, yes.
or
Or
you can
Handle
instance of a
or
component.
It's not
instead
a
of
object of the component. Actually, here these transactions we need to create with a sequence only. That's what I told before. I just for example, I'm telling here as a monitor, but this transaction one, transaction two will have sequence items only for sequence items.
I understand. Thank
So
you.
we need to remove this in that case if you write object. If you write for this monitor, then we need to pass this. Okay. Any other doubts still here, everyone?
Yeah, but in this case, we have two arguments. You need to put this, I guess. I mean, you don't have to remove.
Yes. In this case, no need to remove. If it
Mm.
is an object, we need to remove.
Correct. Thank you.
Suppose here, if we write as an object, then we need to remove. Okay. Next, is it clear, everyone, the difference between instance and global override? Instance override means instead of changing entire data type in test bench, if you want to change the particular data type of an object in specific instance, you can use this instance overriding by using the specific instance path like this, whichever you want to override. So here AHB monitor is overridden with APB monitor only for this particular instance. Okay. Next, configuration DB. So what is mean by configuration DB in UVM? Configuration database. Can anyone explain?
Configuration means we can customize our components no more, like enabling the agent active or passive like that. For our customization purpose, we use configuration, config DB. Am I right now?
For customization purpose, we use config DB. Okay, correct. So
to
how
store
can
the
we
data.
customize in UVM?
To store the
Sorry,
data.
to store the data. Okay, which
That
method
can
is
be
used to store the
that,
data?
that can be used across all the components.
Okay, okay. Any other answers? Okay, so
You can store by
configuration
method.
to store a method.
Yeah, we can store by get method, set method, and can retrieve by the get method.
Okay, yeah, okay. Any other answers? That's it. Okay. So configuration database is nothing but like suppose whenever you want to customize the data, however in normal usage, we are customizing our laptop or mobile phones according to your convenience, which applications you want to use, and like a storage purpose, or which one you want to enable or disable. Particularly you are customizing lot of things in your mobile phones or laptops or whatever gadgets, right? So any product should be customizable in a easy way. In the same way, UVM configuration facility used to develop the reusable test benches. Okay, and also whenever as per our requirement, how many test cases should be enabled or disabled, whether it is an active agent or passive agent. If there are 10 number of agents, how many number of agents should be enabled or disabled? Okay, like if scoreboard is enabled or disabled, whether it should be enabled or disabled. Or sometimes we write coverage report, whether the coverage report is enabled or disabled. So all these things we can customize. Okay, so everything possible with the configuration database. So accordingly we configure the data according to your specification. Okay, so to provide more visibility, we are using the config db, UVM config db. Syntax. So like this we need to use. Okay, so based on that we can use the set method or get method. Okay, can you tell me what is the difference between set method and get method? First of all, I will write the syntax for set method and get method. uh,
Set is used for storing and get is used for retrieving.
Set is storing the data and get method retrieve the data. Okay, why it's going like this? Both are we have different syntaxes. Very minor difference will be there in terms of syntax. So for set method, we are first storing the data into the set configuration database. That means, like I told, right, which one should be enable or disable, or number of agents, particularly you can mention enable. So UVM config db, you need to mention the data type, int or string, whatever data type. And then set method, set UVM component, name of the UVM component, scope, comma, instance name, instance scope name, instance name, and field name. Comma, value. So what is the value here? So UVM config db, data type we need to pass. Data type means which value, which data type value you are going to store, whether int data type or string data type, whatever. Next, UVM component scope. That means the component which value you are going to set here. Okay, and instance name. Instance name, mostly we will use the star. If you want to access globally, we use star. or directly you can put that instance name, which one you are going to access the particular instance, you can put that. And field name means which retrieve the value. Okay, and next value, to store some value we use the uh, any value. Okay, and that is what set. And for get also mostly same. What would be the difference for get? UVM config db hash data type get UVM component scope, not directly UVM component, instance name, comma, field value name. So here it retrieve the data using the get method. Okay, so how we can use the config db like in real time case? Any example? Suppose if we take any like mostly config db we will create in the test or test bench top level, and get set method we will set the data there. Get data mean we can get the data to the driver, monitor, event sequence. Okay, so there we get the data. Suppose if we create a class like a object. Config object means obviously object will be extends from the UVM object. UVM object utils you need to write. Pass the config object name. Okay, so how we can write here? First create the function constructor. I'm not writing all. Create the constructor and the class. Okay, next set the configuration in a test. I have created one config object and also created test, because config db mostly we write in the main test. Okay, class main test extends UVM test. Create the component UVM component utils my test. Okay, next again create the constructor. I'm not creating the constructor here. Class constructor. Next, build phase. Every time we need to create the build phase. Within the build phase, we need to set the database. Okay, so in the main test, in the test, you need to use the set. Remaining components like agent. In agent, we can get the data. Okay, so how we can set the data? any value we can use. Suppose here in main config object, I am taking some value data. Okay, so I'm just creating the int data here. In the main test, just configure the data here, just setting some value to that data. After constructor, write the build phase function void. What is the syntax? Build phase, pass UVM phase, comma phase. Here for this config object, we will create the instance of configure. Okay. Now by using this config, create the config we need to create. How we can create? Same by using the create method. So config is equal to, what is the name of main class object type ID. Again create method. Here it is an object, right? For object we will pass only the string instance name. No need to use the this. If it is a component, comma this. Okay, before example we have seen, right? Same. So I'm passing some value to this data. CFG dot data is equal to any value 100. Okay, so after passing this value, now we need to store this data, this configuration into the database. Okay, so this is what I have, the config data, and in the next value I will show you how to enable scoreboard or disable, how to use the agent. For simple example, I'm just showing this. Okay, this data I'm storing into the config db. Now how we can set, how can use the set method, uvm config db hash. What is the name here? Config object set. Set this comma, what are the parameters? Config db set uvm component scope. Mostly we use the this for uvm component scope. When do we use this? When do we use null? Can you tell me, anyone? When do we use this and when do we use null?
Null is used for static count. Static.
For static. Okay.
This is used for class-based data types.
No.
This is for the current uh, class object that we are using.
Okay. Okay, we will discuss that thing. Mostly this is used for components. Null is used for objects. Okay, so here set, for mostly set we use in the component only. So we use this. In get method we use the object, right? When we are using get method in object, you suppose in sequence or sequence item, then we need to use null. Same get method if you use in the component, we use this only. Okay, in the set anyway we use in the component, so that's why we use this only, this comma. If you want to check globally, I'm passing this star. If you don't want to check globally, within that instance name you need to write. Okay, so here if you see UVM component scope instance name, so instance name I'm just taking as a star to check globally, and field name, what is the field name I'm considering here? CFG config. So CFG you need to pass in a string comma value. So CFG value, I'm passing this value. Okay, so this is how we can set the data end function, end class. Okay, so here it will store the config, whatever the config object data we created, that thing it will store in the UVM config DB with the name CFG. Okay, so this star indicates it can access to all the components. This set can access to all the components. If you don't want to access to all the components, you can write particular name, instance name, so that that set method can be accessed only to the particular instance name. Okay, clear everyone how to set the config DB? Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Need to go through once.
Prasanthi,
Ma'am.
this is
ma'am.
star.
Mm.
Prasanthi, this is star is for
Task. No, it's
star.
not star. This
Yeah.
star.
Hmm.
Yeah, star in the sense globally we are connecting. That means every
Okay.
every get method can access. If you don't
Oh,
use the star, if you use particularly instance name. So here if you see instance name, so particular component instance name, if you put any object name, then only that file can access within the config DB. Suppose you are putting in the driver, you are accessing in the driver. If you pass drive here, instance name, only this set method can be accessible by driver. Okay, but if I use this star, it can access by all the components. Whatever the component you want to access this set method, every component can access.
okay.
Okay, in this same config DB, you can also put the information like agent should be enable or disable. Can you tell me what we write for agent enable or disable, or to make it active or passive? In the first session we have discussed how we can
If
active.
you UVM underscore active,
UVM underscore active.
EVM
yeah,
underscore passive.
UVM underscore passive. Yeah,
We
like
can use two ways. Like you need to put like UVM active. If you use enum, UVM active passive, whatever the name, according to your name, what you are creating, like that you can put is active is equal to UVM active. If UVM active is equal to 1, it will be active agent. If it equal to 0, passive agent. Like that, bit whatever functional coverage. If you want to disable the functional coverage or enable the functional coverage, then functional coverage is equal to 0. All these available in the PPT, whatever I shared. Next, scoreboard enable or disable. Scoreboard equal to 1 means enable. Here coverage is disabled, and any transaction, how many agents you want to connect or disable. So everything every data is there in this config object. Okay, so all this config object you are getting here, you are setting this data equal to 100, and whatever remaining all there, you already I already set here. So from here also you can access this set method, or from other component also. Okay, so all this data will be set in this particular config DB. Now you want to get the data to the any component. So how you can get the data? Everyone understood? Setting the data into config DB. Just concept wise, everyone understood. We will discuss some more example for more clarity. Hello.
yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, suppose I want to get this data to some of my agent. So how we can get the data? We can create a class agent extends from UVM agent, UVM component, because agent is a component, utils, my agent. So here create the config object same and write the constructor. After constructor, in the build phase we need to get the data. So function void build phase, UVM phase so here we need to retrieve the configuration data by using get method. So how we can use the get method? Here we can use the, mostly we will use some conditional statements like if else statement, or directly you can get the data. Okay, sometimes whenever get condition is failed, if you want to write some info statements, we write the info statements, say error statements, right? So that thing also we can use here. Okay, suppose if config data, if what is the syntax? UVM config db hash, what is the name? Config object, scope resolution operator, get, we need to use get this because it's a component. For component we use a this method, for object we use a null. Okay, so this current, in your current class you are getting. So next config comma value, what is the value? CFG. If it is passed, okay, so you will get the info statement here. How we can write the info statement? By using a UVM info. Okay, so where we are writing in the agent, suppose agent, what format you want to write? You can write a format, dollar format, formats we will discuss later. Just I am writing a value here, like data value. Data value should be printed. So how the data value will be printed? You need to pass here CFG dot data, and also you need to pass some verbosity levels. Verbosity levels also in the next session we will discuss, whether UVM high, low, medium, like that, the priority. Okay, so if this condition is passed, you will get the info statement, else you will get the fatal error. Okay, so in else, no need to write else, directly you can write UVM fatal failed, got failed, end function, end class. Okay, suppose the same case we can also write in another way. Here if UVM config db, we are writing as an info statement, and also you can write if it is not like if it is failed, not operation in the sense if it is not, okay, then failed. In that case the UVM fatal error will get upside like this, and then if it is pass, UVM info statement. Okay, everyone understood here? Any doubt? Same thing, how you will get the configuration data in a sequence. In a sequence. Here agent is a component, but sequence is a object. So how we will get same data in sequence, and what are the minor changes?
Instead of
Not
this, we use null.
okay. I'm copying same class. Instead of my agent, I'm taking as a sequence. Okay, my sequence. Extending from UVM sequence. So it's an object, UVM object utils. Instead of agent, write sequence. Created config db, and here get, but here we don't have a this. We always have null for objects. Okay, get null, come on, get full name also you can write. Okay, so here instead of this you can also write the get full name method, so that it will get the name of that particular instance. Before what we written directly that instance name, here space in the sense directly that particular instance in that class it will be printed, but here get full name means it will print the instance name. Okay, but for objects we need to write like this. Okay, config comma cfg value, string comma value. Okay, same, if it is not triggered, then fatal error if it is failed. If it is not failed, UVM info statement. Okay, clear everyone till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Prasanti,
But need to go through once.
Yeah, tell.
Prasanti, this null and get full name, can you please repeat again?
Get full name. Get
I
full
mean,
name in the sense
null, comma, like earlier we were using the
this.
this, right?
Uh,
Okay, when we are using the object, then okay,
mm,
we need to use the null.
yes. Whenever you use object, because
Mm-hmm.
config db we will call in objects, components everywhere. So whenever you are calling in the component, then you need to pass this. But in case of object like sequencer, sequence, the first two arguments should be null, get full name. Okay.
Okay, so
So
get
one
full
thing,
name
mm,
also we need to use.
yes, get
With,
full name also we need to use. It's instance name,
Can you
particular instance name.
write the syntax for the get in the object?
Here I written 60.
Okay. I'll just take a screenshot. Thank you.
I will
so
share
get
this
full name
notes.
was what it will give to us, like it is full the config name.
Instance name.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Particular the config name.
Oh,
Whatever the object you have created, here in which object you have created that class.
okay.
Okay. So here one question. Everyone clear till here? Lots of confusion. Huh? I am sharing the recorded session also, right? So you can go through recorded session once again and just note down the points from starting onwards. Okay. Maybe you will get some clarity. Okay. Config DB is nothing but just we can like customize what as per our requirement. What should be enabled, what should be disabled, particular data values, whether you want to use active agents or passive agent, or how many number of agents you want to connect. Okay, anything disable or enable, everything we can customize to the configuration. Okay, it's a database. Database means what? We have some Excel sheet, like in that we will store everything, right? How many number of students, the student category, like like internship or workshop or some courses, like that we categorize everything. In the same way, configuration database is used to store some data in a UVM. Okay, so whatever we are storing the data, how we are storing the data? By using the set method. Here there is a set method, right? So by using that set method, we are storing the data into particular class, some class, suppose test, top level test. If you don't want to put everything in the test, you can create a config file like this, separate config db class you can create, everything you can put there. Okay, and you can set by using this set option, you can set the data into that particular instance. Okay, so whatever you set here, this is what the syntax set, this comma star. What is this star? Star in the sense every object or component can access this data, this active agent or functional coverage, scoreboard, every object or component like even scoreboard, driver, generator, monitor, all can access this data if you put star. Okay, if you don't put star, if you put only the particular instance name, particular class name, class instance name, then only particular that component only can access. Okay, so always try to put this star so that globally it will be accessing. Okay, so this is how we can set some data into the configuration. After that, you need to get the data to every component or object. So to get the data, if it is a component, we need to register with the component util, and this is what the syntax, get syntax. Okay, get comma this one space, in the sense in that instance name. Okay, like same class. Okay, config string comma value, config value you can put same. And if you are accessing into the object like a sequence item, instead of this just put null. Okay, null comma get full name, that is by default syntax you need to follow. Simple. Clear everyone?
Yes, ma'am. Send this coding also, ma'am.
Yeah, already updating all codes in the
Yes,
sheet.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so next thing, if you define a sequence, the sequence doesn't start automatically here. Okay, so it will start in the run phase because everything we write in the run phase manually. In the run phase, we will sequence to driver. If you connect, how it will access, like get it request for the driver, and driver need to pass the access and randomize the data, send to the driver, and driver will send to the item done request. Sequence will send the request, driver will send the item done. So this is what the transaction flow in the first session we have discussed, right? So all these things will be done automatic, manually. Okay, so whenever we are starting a sequence manually, we need to set as a default sequence. So particularly that sequence will be started. Okay, so how can you set any particular sequence as a default without running manually? Instead of starting a sequence manually, we can set as a default sequence. So particularly that sequence will be started automatically. We don't need to run manually. So how can we set that sequence as a default in configuration database? Particularly in the configuration database, we need to set that thing. Any idea? Actually, we can set any particular sequence as a default sequence by using two methods. Okay, one is a using wrapper method, another one is using instance method. So how to set any particular sequence as default sequence. Default sequence means what? It doesn't run manually. It doesn't run manually through run phase. Okay, so first we can use wrapper method, or else you can use instance, using instance. So what is the syntax by using the wrapper method? Just you need to write uvm config config db hash. In this you need to pass uvm object wrapper. That is the syntax, uvm object wrapper. And then set method. Set, it's a component, right? If it is a component, you can put as a component. If it is a object, you can put as a object null. So here you need to pass sequence, whatever the sequence is there, run phase, and also as a default sequence. Mostly we don't use this condition, but I'm just saying this is also one concept. Sequence instance. Whatever the sequence instance we are creating, that thing you need to put here. Type ID, get. This is how we can use the wrapper. Okay, so whenever you put like this, by default, without using run phase and all, by default it will the sequence will be run. Another thing, using instance. Same syntax, but I'm copying same uvm config db sequence one. Sequence we need to pass create. Here we need to use the create method instead of set method. For instance, create, you need to pass the sequence instance. Sequence instance, comma, sequence run phase, comma, default sequence here. Okay, this is how we can create sorry, set only here. Instead of wrapper, you need to write the sequence name, base sequence name. UVM object wrapper. Okay, this is what the syntax. Clear, everyone? And also if you are connecting through the agent main phase, then you can pass here in the instead of sequence instance, you can pass this comma agent main phase. Sequence instance. This is what the default syntax we need to pass. Default sequence, sequence instance.
Here actually what we are doing, ma'am, we are changing our base sequence, or we are changing our parent class where we declared in what we are changing, ma'am, here.
Here, instead of using this UVM object wrapper, we just use the UVM sequence a base. Okay, so whenever you're suppose this sequence item before that, okay, wait. Suppose instead of using the class, we declare the sequence first of all. Before in create method, if you see here, how do we use the create method? Here we didn't use create method. Sequence inst. Okay, so if you see here, using the instance method, we are just creating one instance using the create method and passing through UVM sequence base. For wrapper, if you write for component, like not only component or object, if you use the wrapper method, this is what default syntax, UVM object wrapper. Okay, so that automatically by default the sequence will be called. We no need to call manually using the run method. Okay, but if we are starting the sequences manually, there is a chance to write the rise and drop objections before and after the simulation. Okay, you know the rise and drop objection now in last time I told, right? But what if you are setting the sequences as a default sequences, because we cannot write the rise and drop objections in the test. So you won't be starting the sequence manually. Here we are starting the sequence by default. But even if you write like this, you cannot start manually. I mean, you cannot use the rise and drop objection. So what we can do in that case? So whenever the sequences are set to the default sequences, so if you see here, this default sequence, and here also the sequence is a default sequence. When these sequences are set to default, you need to use a starting phase condition. Starting phase is set whenever you use the default sequence, whenever you want to write the rise and drop objection. Okay, starting phase, you need to create dot rise objection, this comma starting your sequence, whatever your instance name, my sequence. You need to pass this. Normally we don't write this thing in the body of main sequence. If you see any example, UVM sequence. Somewhere we have written rise objection and drop objection. I think in FIFO coda, sequence item. Sequence finish item. Before which examples we discussed? Okay, I will check that example. Okay, so this is how for rise and drop objection. So if you are using the default sequence, we cannot write rise and drop objection manually. So that's why we need to use starting phase dot rise objection, starting phase dot drop objection at time of drop. Okay.
Where do we write the starting phase dot raise objection in that case?
Here also, if you want to write for object, because because the rise objection we write in the sequence is an object. Okay. um drop objection we write in the driver. I'm writing here clearly. Rise objection we write in the sequence, it's an object. Drop objection we write in the driver, because we are checking number of transactions are equal or not. So driver is a component. So for driver, syntax is different. Starting phase dot rise objection. Here we don't have the starting phase, just a phase dot drop objection. This is what the syntax for components. Components phase dot drop. For our object, starting phase dot rise. Okay, everyone clear till here? Any doubts? Hello.
Yeah. I think we need to go once again over these things. It's little difficult to understand.
Yeah. Okay, another one more example we will discuss in the config DB for more clarity. So suppose you are configuring it with a multiple number of agents, active agent or passive agent, scoreboard enable or disable. Okay, so in that case, what are the steps we need to follow? So step 1, create the config file, agent config, whatever the config file. So here config is a object extending from UVM object. So creating as a UVM object utils factory registration, and bit is active. Creating the is active. If is active is equal to 1, then agent is active. If it is equal to 0, then it's a passive agent. Okay, and bit enable scoreboard. Enable scoreboard equal to 1 means it's enable, equal to 0 means disable. Okay, next function new constructor. So this is how we create the config file first, and set configuration in test. So how we can set configuration in test top level? class myTest extending from UVM test, component utils myTest, creating the class constructor and creating the build phase. So agent config CFG. CFG is a instance of agent config of array of 4 agents. We are creating here 4 agents. Before I told you, right, number of agents we can create. In that number of agents, which agent should be active, which agent should be passive, or which should be enable, disable. We can configure everything. So here, if you see, there are 4 number of agents. AHB agent, APB agent, and some PCIe related agent and AXI related agent. 4 type of agents we are creating. So in that 4 type of agent, which 2 agents should be active and which 2 agents should be passive. So like that we can configure. So creating the agents of 4, and for each config I, so see here config data how we are setting this, creating the config, all config we are creating first. After creating, if I equal to 0 or 2, then that is active agent. For 0 and 2, 0 and 2 is active agent and enabling the scoreboard. And remaining 1 and 3 are passive, is active equal to 0. So passive, and enable scoreboard equal to 0. For those two, we are not enabling the scoreboard. So this data we are putting into the config db, okay, by using the set method. So this is what we can use the set method, UVM config db agent, passing this agent config name and set this comma because it's a component, and passing this argument. Before we have passed the same argument and also star. So if you want to access globally, we can put star, or else we can put instance name here I, and config and values. What are the values? Whole 4 config values. So CFG of I. Okay, and function end. So this is how we can set the data into main test, and retrieving the configuration data in agent. So in the top level test, we are putting the data, and that data we are retrieving in the agent. So how we can get the data here? Class my agent extend UVM agent, creating the component, and agent config, creating one config file, and also in agent we connect analysis port from monitor to scoreboard, monitor to coverage or RAL model, like that. So creating the analysis port, monitor driver, and creating the class constructor. And in the build phase, we need to get that config data which we set in the test. Okay, so if config, just keep aside that UVM config db hash agent config name we need to pass here, get this comma here instance, local instance, and string name config, value name CFG. If it is fail, it give the fatal error, failed error. If it is pass, UVM info statement. Before I have shown you 2 types. If you want to use not here, then put fatal error. If you don't use not, then put info statement here. Okay, so like that. And also here, we are configuring the UVM just the statement we are writing here. Okay. Next, connecting monitor, and if config is active or passive, 2 types we have. Okay, active means driver and sequencer also will be connected. Passive means only monitor will be connected, right? So if config is active, driver, this will be there in every example. So even if you see adder example also, in the agent, everywhere. If you see here, we need to create super dot build phase, driver, sequencer, monitor, driver to sequence item port in the agent. Okay, so it depends. So is active means we will connect a driver and sequence. If it is passive, only monitor. And enable scoreboard. If enable scoreboard is high, then printing some statement, analysis statement. Okay. Next, instantiate multiple agents in the environment. We have written for only one agent, this one. If you have multiple agents like APB, AHB, AXI, all agents at a time, then you can put all agents into the top level environment. Component utils, my agent 4. So how we are creating the agent here. Okay, this is how we can set the data and get the data into config DB. Everyone clear?
Yes, Prasanti, but one just question, like in general, in any test bench, if we are creating, where we are setting the config DB, I mean, where we are writing that in
We
the test
write
bench.
in the main test bench module, test module, I mean top level test bench or test.
Okay, okay.
Get
In
data,
wherever,
you
yeah,
can
where
get anywhere.
component,
What?
in any component like driver monitor, wherever we are retrieving that, right?
Yeah, you can retrieve anywhere. So if you see in this adder example, mostly we use in the test bench
Okay,
in the test.
thank
Uh, Get the config data. Here in test bench, here also, okay. Mhm. Yeah. In test bench, we use the set method here, and in the driver, we use the get method. Monitor also get method. Here, getting the data from UVM root, because this is a common simple example, right? We are not putting much specifications in the config DB. If it is like complex example like multiple agents, enable scoreboard or disable, coverage enable or disable, we can put everything in a separate config file. But here everything we are taking from UVM root by default. UVM root is the parent for all libraries, right? So by default we are putting UVM root and getting the config data. So yeah, this is how we can set. Okay. Or even you can write a like separate file for config DB. if there are more number of specifications. Okay,
Uh,
clear? Any doubts?
Sorry for going back again. So the set method will be written from the env or
Set method is written from the env, yeah?
in which file is it written?
Test bench, top
Test
level.
bench. Top.
Mm.
Okay. And the get method wherever you want to get.
In driver or sequencer we don't use mostly. In sequence item monitor we use.
So any file where you want to use that particular uh, items inside the config DB, everywhere you need to get it.
Get it, yes, in the build phase. Build phases are used in the components only, right? So in the build phase we write that.
Is it possible
And
that we have a set
Even
phase
if
in,
you
sorry,
don't write phases in the sequence, we don't write the phase because it's an object. But in sequence, we write the body, task body. In the body also, you can get the config db file. Okay.
and
Even it's not a
can we
component.
and
Mm.
can we set anything from the object? No, only is possible from the top level.
No, only in the top level we need to set.
Okay.
Remaining all we need to get. Even if you don't set in top level, at least we can create separate file. That also we can do. Like here, however, we return for coverage separate file. Like that, we can put separate config file.
And use that file in the
You
top level.
get yes, we need to include that file in top level.
Okay.
Okay. So any other doubts, Gurushant? Is it clear? Do you have any doubts? No? Everything clear? All UVM concepts?
Yes, ma'am. I have one doubt. So usually, if you don't write any extra config file, so by default it will be stored in this
Yeah, it's not
config
a
data,
mandatory
right?
to
When you
write
set
a
and when you get.
config file. Just even if you don't write a get method, set method, minimum config file also no problem. Even if you don't write minimum config, I mean, whatever we just use here, simple set method and get method. Even if you don't write that also no problem. These all are extra features in UVM. Okay. Then what you will call in the build phase? In build phase, we will just create. We don't call any config db. We will just create the component, and in the connect phase we just connect the components. That's it. Okay. CB, any doubts? Sheetal, Vinita, Rohan, Karthi, Shamim.
No, ma'am. Just need to go through once and need some practice.
Yeah. Okay,
uh,
fine.
Prashanti, one question. So is it possible that if we want to share something across between driver and a monitor, so we write the set method in driver and get method in monitor, something like that?
Uh,
I mean, just a random question actually.
okay. So if you want to set something in the driver, okay,
Yeah,
what
and
type of information we can set to the driver?
um, yeah, anyway, but that will be available on the interface, so monitor can get it through interface.
Hmm.
Um, no,
Okay,
it was
we
just a
will
random
suppose
question.
you want to put some interface related data from driver to monitor. Suppose anyway that interface is connecting to test only top level.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That we will write in a top level itself.
Hmm.
We will set that data in a top level only.
Okay.
Other than that, in a driver, what we can set in config db, like using config db. We cannot set anything related to the transaction. It is just a handshake, like it just drive the data to DUT. That's it.
No, yeah, no problem. It was just random question. Just thought.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay then. Leftover topics are reporting mechanism and wait, let me see. We have completed agent phases, TLM ports configuration, and factory registration. We need to complete reporting mechanism, RAL models, virtual sequence, and remaining last 5 days or working on these test benches, adder, free force, counter, and AXI VIP development. Okay, leftover topics are reporting mechanism and RAL model, virtual sequences, and simple small concepts are there like drop objection, rise objection. These things we will discuss more clearly. Okay.
Prashanti, in last session, you had shared UVM specific questions. Actually, in that, the first question was regarding the TLM 54. So look, you have to send 10 transactions across using the
Actually, that
TLM
question
ports.
yesterday asked by Vinita also.
Oh, okay.
I already
Okay.
clarified that. Once you can talk to her, okay, you will get clarity.
Okay, because it was just mentioned in the exam answer, it was mentioned the put port is connected to get port. So I just wanted to get clarification on that.
Yeah, you can take from her. Yesterday we just discussed on that.
Where was it discussed? Sorry, actually. I mean, in the
She
last
sent
session,
me in
I'll
WhatsApp.
send the
She
Prasanti's
asked in
reply.
the
Yeah,
WhatsApp. So
okay.
I just
I'll
checked.
send in the group.
Yeah, sure. Thank you,
Send
Vinita.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay then. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Prasanti,
Thank you.
Yeah. Tell.
can you say some more assignments of programming of UVM?
Yeah. I will share.
Sure, please.
Okay. Yesterday I shared one programming related and one theory related, right? So I will share another one assignment. Okay.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much.